Throughout the creation of my 3 media products, I found that the audience feedback has been a vital source for me to use and to go back to when I started developing each of my products. It was also useful to remind myself of what I must include and what I needed to meet the needs of my audience and to ensure that it appealed to them. When I started researching into different horror films, genres and themes, I used the technique of receiving audience feedback. The specific technique I used was a group open interview consisting of representatives from my primary target audience to answer questions related to the horror films, to allow me to understand significant aspects which are vital for me to include in my horror trailer to meet my audience's needs. They were asked a number of questions which I had constructed that with detailed answers would allow me to understand in greater depth what my target audience looked for in a horror film and what they didn't explicitly like. I asked 5 individuals the same questions and received answers from them, which gave me insight into the key features which I would include within my trailer. For example, through the questionnaire, it was clear of the importance of including a vulnerable character, which helped me to develop the specific character for this trailer, the mentally ill antagonist. It was also made apparent that it is essential to have a plotline that has aspects that can be relatable to the audience, so the scare factor can be increased. This helped me to form the plotline which focused on a love triangle and domestic abuse. Through this focus group, the subgenre of horror was chosen, psychological horror, as I asked them what subgenre is their favourite, and the conclusion was psychological horror, which was applied to 3 plot lines which I created. It also highlighted which setting and props we should include to appeal to our target audience. For example, the use of everyday households as weapons and the setting of a home to make the audience able to relate to the horror, to their everyday lives, and making it more realistic, was essential to include. After collecting this data, I then constructed my 3 potential plot lines. I wrote 3 different plot lines which corresponded with what feedback I had received from my focus group. Once I had formed these 3 potential plot lines, I presented them to a focus group, consisting of my target audience. Once I had showed them what I had developed, I allowed them to give me feedback on what they liked and disliked, and what they thought should be changed. Feedback we received for the plotline 1 included feedback that addressed that the plotline needs to be less complex and more simple, which highlighted to us that maybe this plotline isn't the best option to use, as if the audience seems confused and unsure of what the main focus is, it's likely that the trailer would not be popular. The second plotline included feedback which highlighted difficulty we may face with gaining access to the setting, which is a school that we need to use after hours. We realised that this obstacle would be too big to overcome, so we decided to opt out for using this plotline. Therefore, the decision was made to use a plotline 3, as the focus group had ruled out the first 2, and for the third plotline, they didn't pick up on any issues we may have faced, as it would be easy to film as it is based within a home and doesn't require permission to use. As well, the plotline was clear to understand, but still gripping. By using audience feedback, it made it easier and clearer what plotline we should use, in order to ensure that it attracted our target audience and fitted into the horror genre. It also allowed me to make sure that the choice of plotline was the correct one and would not produce any issues during filming. During the audience feedback of my potential plotlines, the audience gave us examples of films which they believed would benefit us to watch, as they linked to the plotlines and subgenres which we presented. By doing research into these similar films, allowed me an insight into the conventions of my subgenre of horror and what features are vital to include. For example, I found that there wasn't any drastic use of mice and scene within any psychological horrors, films or trailers, to allow the audience to relate more to what they are seeing and to allow them to put themselves into the positions of the protagonist, which would heighten the moments of horror for them. Throughout the creation of my poster, trailer and website, I received feedback from an individual who was part of my original focus group and also part of the target audience. Whilst creating my poster, they highlighted that I should highlight that violence was inflicted upon the image/character more so and more clearer by adding in another injury onto the actor's neck. I then acted upon this piece of feedback and went to Photoshop to add in the bruising around the character's neck. This enhances and implied horror more so than it did before. When creating the website, I received feedback about the positioning of the title and tagline. Originally, the title and tagline was placed on the top left-hand corner, along with the navigation bar and social media links. I then showed this original copy of the website to this individual. They then commented on how the right-hand side was bare compared to the left. They then suggested moving the title and tagline towards the right-hand side to fill the space out and make the spacing more equal on the website, which would make it more appealing to look at. During the creation of the trailer, we showed an individual the different stages we were at during the editing process. During the first stage, they highlighted that the clips towards the end should be made shorter than what they already are, to make the trailer appear more distorted and fit into the convention of the horror theme. Also, when they watched the trailer through, they highlighted that the news report was not realistic enough, and that what the actor was wearing was not convincing for a news report. Therefore, we decided to re-record it. To improve, we researched into what news reporters wear and say to help us improve the second take. After we did research into it, we changed the attire of the news reporter, so she was wearing glasses, her hair up, and a full-length duffel coat.
So did you kill your wife, Anna?
I already told you this. I was happy in my relationship. I was happy in my marriage. I would never do anything like that to her.
Last night, one of the young women was found brutally murdered.
He changed when he met her and I had to save her. I just loved him so much. I do love him so much.
What was your relationship with Steph like?
Steph was a weird one. She always come to my house when I'm not there. Come unexpected. She didn't know how to move on. After we broke up, didn't like it. She was weird, not good.
What do you mean when she was alive?